In the heart of America, where the land speaks in whispers of the past, a man named Standing Bear stood before the law, not as a warrior with weapons, but with words that would echo through history. His story isn't just about a fight for land, it's a testament to the human spirit's unyielding quest for recognition, dignity, and justice. The dawn of a chief. In the rolling plains of what would become Nebraska, the Ponca tribe thrived, their lives intertwined with the land like the roots of the mighty cottonwood trees. Standing Bear was born into this world around 1829, to a time when the horizon was still painted with the freedom of the buffalo's roam and the sacred songs of the wind. From childhood, Standing Bear was known for his wisdom and compassion, traits that would define his leadership. As he grew, so did the white settlements around them, bringing with them treaties that promised peace but often delivered displacement. The Ponca's way of life began to erode under these new pressures, the forced march. In 1877, the US government, in a tragic misunderstanding, moved the Ponca from their ancestral lands in Nebraska to Indian Territory in Oklahoma, believing them to be part of the Sioux, their historical enemies. This march, known as the Ponca Trail of Tears, was a journey of sorrow. The land in Oklahoma was harsh, unsuitable for the agriculture the Ponca knew, and disease ravaged the tribe. Standing Bear's own son, Bear Shield, succumbed to the harsh conditions. Standing Bear, witnessing his people's suffering, decided he could no longer watch them fade away in a foreign land. With a small group, including his daughter Prairie Flower, who was gravely ill, they decided to return to Nebraska to bury Bear Shield in their sacred ground, the Arrest. Upon their return, Standing Bear and his group were arrested for leaving the reservation without permission. They were detained at Fort Omaha, where the irony of fighting for their rights in a land they once freely roamed was not lost on him. Here, Standing Bear met General George Crook, a man who would become an unlikely ally due to his empathy towards the plight of Native Americans, the trial of humanity. With General Crook's support, Standing Bear's case was brought before Judge Elmer S. Dundy in the U.S. District Court in Omaha. The question at hand was whether Standing Bear was a person under the law, thus entitled to the writ of habeas corpus. The government's argument was that as an Indian, he was not a person in the legal sense. Standing Bear's attorney, John L. Webster, presented a powerful case, arguing that Standing Bear's humanity was undeniable, focusing on the love of a father for his son, a love that transcended race or nationality. Standing Bear himself took the stand, his words simple yet profound. That hand is not the color of yours, but if I pierce it, I shall feel pain. If you pierce your hand, you also feel pain. The blood that will flow from mine will be the same color as yours. I am a man. A legal milestone. In a historic ruling on May 12, 1879, Judge Dundy declared that an Indian was legally a person with rights under the law, granting Standing Bear and his people the right to return to Nebraska. This decision was the first time a court recognized Native Americans as entitled to legal personhood, setting a precedent for future civil rights for indigenous peoples. A legacy of resilience. Standing Bear and his followers returned to their homeland, but the fight for their rights was far from over. The Ponca were eventually granted a reservation near their ancestral lands, though not without further struggles. Standing Bear continued to advocate for his people, traveling across the country to speak on their behalf, even meeting with President Rutherford B. Hayes. His later years were marked by efforts to educate his people and adapt to a changing world while preserving their culture. Standing Bear's story, his fight for justice, became a beacon for other tribes, igniting a broader movement towards Native American civil rights. The echoes of Standing Bear. Standing Bear passed away in 1908, but his legacy lived on. His name became synonymous with the fight against injustice, not just for Native Americans, but for all marginalized groups. Schools, statues, and stories bear his name, reminding us of the enduring quest for equality and recognition. His narrative teaches us that the fight for human rights begins with the acknowledgement of one's humanity, a fact that courts, governments, and societies often overlook. Standing Bear's journey from the plains of Nebraska to the courts of America shows that even in the darkest times, the light of justice can shine through when one stands firm in their truth and identity. The ripple effect. The landmark decision in Standing Bear's case sent ripples across the country, inspiring other Native American tribes to stand up for their rights. It wasn't just about the Ponca. It was about all indigenous peoples whose lives were dictated by policies that ignored their humanity. The case became a beacon of hope, a legal precedent that Native Americans could and should be treated with the same respect and rights as any other citizen. News of the trial spread, and soon other tribes began to look to Standing Bear as a symbol of resistance and perseverance. Leaders from various nations, from the Sioux to the Cheyenne, recognized the power in Standing Bear's approach, using the white man's own laws to defend their rights. This sparked a series of legal challenges and advocacy efforts aimed at securing land, education, and cultural recognition. The cultural ambassador. Post-trial, Standing Bear didn't rest on his laurels. He transformed into a cultural ambassador, not just for the Ponca, but for Native American culture at large. He traveled extensively, speaking at schools, churches, and political gatherings, educating the American public about Native American life, spirituality, and the injustices they faced. In these talks, Standing Bear shared stories of the Ponca, their history, their songs and dances, all aimed at humanizing the Native experience in the eyes of non-natives. He advocated for peace and understanding, pushing for treaties that honored the promises made to Native tribes. His eloquence and wisdom were not just a defense of his people, but an educational campaign that slowly began to shift public opinion. Challenges and triumphs. The years following the trial were not without their trials. The Ponca reservation was established, but it was small and resources were limited. Standing Bear worked tirelessly with government officials, often in frustrating negotiations, to secure more land and better conditions for his people. He faced opposition from those who saw Native Americans as a problem to be solved rather than people to be respected. However, there were triumphs too. One significant achievement was the establishment of a school on the reservation where both Ponca traditions and American education could coexist, providing the youth with the tools to navigate an ever-changing world while holding on to their cultural identity. This was a direct result of Standing Bear's vision for a future where his people could thrive without losing who they were. The long march to recognition. The journey towards full recognition and rights was long and fraught with setbacks. Standing Bear lived to see only the beginning of these changes. After his passing, the fight continued through his descendants and other tribal leaders who took up the mantle. The Ponca story became part of a larger narrative of Native American resilience, with Standing Bear's name often invoked in discussions about sovereignty, land rights, and cultural preservation. Legislation like the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, which granted citizenship to Native Americans, bore the indirect influence of his work. Each step towards equality was a step built on the foundation laid by Standing Bear and others like him who challenged the status quo. Modern echoes. Today, Standing Bear's legacy continues to resonate. His name is invoked in educational programs, in cultural festivals, and in the ongoing fight for Native American rights. Statues of him stand in Nebraska, a testament to his impact, and the Standing Bear versus Crook case is studied in law schools as a pivotal moment in civil rights history. The Ponca tribe, while still facing modern challenges, has grown stronger, with leaders advocating for environmental issues, cultural education, and economic development. They've preserved their language, dances, and stories, ensuring that the spirit of Standing Bear's fight is not just remembered, but lived, an enduring symbol. Standing Bear's life story is a tapestry woven with threads of struggle, courage, and hope. It transcends his own time, touching on universal themes of identity, justice, and the fight for recognition. His journey from a chief of a small tribe to a figure of national importance illustrates how individual acts of bravery can influence the course of history. His name has become synonymous with the broader Native American struggle for acknowledgement and respect. Books, documentaries, and scholarly articles continue to explore his life, ensuring that future generations understand the significance of his actions. Schools named after him teach not only history, but the values of perseverance and dignity, the future he fought for. Looking towards the future, the legacy of Standing Bear is a beacon for all movements seeking justice and equality. His story teaches that change often begins with one person standing up, not with weapons, but with the power of their humanity and the law. His fight was not just for the Ponca, but for the soul of America, a nation that claims to value freedom and justice for all. In this narrative, we see a man who, against all odds, managed to carve out a space where his people could continue to live, learn, and love in their own way. His story is a reminder that the fight for civil rights is ongoing, that each generation must take up the torch to ensure the light of justice continues to shine. Standing Bear's life is a profound narrative of a man who stood not just for his people, but for the very concept of human rights. His journey from the plains of Nebraska to the annals of legal history is a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit when it seeks justice. His legacy is a call to action, an invitation to continue the work he started, ensuring that every person is recognized for their humanity, regardless of race, creed, or color. In remembering Standing Bear, we honor not just a chief, but a visionary who believed in a world where all could walk in peace and dignity.